As a small island state, Singapore's survival and success is a miracle. We have too little land to cultivate food meaningfully, no natural resources to enrich ourselves, and remain one of the most water-stressed countries in the world. We must never forget that the 1961 and 1962 water agreements ensured a supply of water from Johor to meet Singapore's needs, and were so sacrosanct that they were guaranteed by both Singapore and Malaysia in the separation agreement, sacrosanct to this day. Yet we were determined to build a successful, thriving, and livable home, and by pursuing sustainable development from the word go. We overcame our challenges through two key approaches. First, long-term planning. Even as the government tackled current problems, it scanned the horizons for threats and opportunities and planned decades ahead. Decades, not years. Second, the ability to implement policies and plans effectively. Faced with a challenge, we start small, learn from others, harness technology, invest in R&D, keep on trying until we get it right. Then we take our solutions and scale up to benefit the whole nation. In doing so, we also grow our enterprises and create good jobs for Singaporeans. This is the essence of our water story. We now welcome the Singapore Food Agency to our Muir family. It is with the same understanding that food security is an existential issue, just like water, that we are writing our Singapore food story. But first, Mr. Deputy Chairman, let me dwell on our water story. Since independence, there has been the perception that water could be used as leverage against Singapore. Indeed, there have been threats to cut off our water supply. It was against this backdrop of needing to ensure the security and resilience of Singapore's water supply that we set out to create drinking water from used water. We started pilot testing in the 70s. It took us more than 2 decades before we were ready to scale up production of new water. We built a demonstration plant, started water quality measurement programs, and rallied the entire nation's support. It's a feat to be proud of, that we have integrated our used water into the water system into a closed loop, safely and reliably. Drugs disposed of in sinks or toilets will be substantially removed through the water reclamation process. Our new water technology is so reliable that the reverse osmosis process will effectively remove any remaining pharmaceutical compounds when treated used water is channeled into the new water production. PUB's constant monitoring showed that pharmaceutical compounds were not detected in our drinking water. I hope that will put to rest Ms. Irene Kueh's concerns about PUB's treatment capabilities in removing drugs from used water. Every time I describe to an international audience how we as a nation drink and use water from this system, with full confidence of its safety and hygiene, I cannot help but beam with pride. Today, New Water is a national tap that is recognized internationally for its high quality and sustainability. Engineer Dr. Lee Bee Wah asked about new developments in the water sector. PUB is not done with R&D. We are pushing on. The Research, Innovation and Enterprise Council, REC, allocated PUB $200 million for R&D, which includes pursuing breakthrough technologies. We oppose what we call big, hairy, and audacious goals, BHAGs, to scientists, such as producing desalinated water with energy use of 1 kilowatt-hour per meter cube at the system level. We already have the electro-deionization technology that can potentially halve the energy required today in conventional reverse osmosis desalination. We are ready to scale up and deploy this technology at one of the process trains in PUB's Tuas desalination plant from 2020. The gains from R&D go beyond solving our water problems. Over the years, we have developed a thriving water industry with over 200 companies and more than 25 R&D centers. Our investments in the past decade have created some 14,400 good jobs and economic value add of over $2.2 billion annually, far more than our 2006 target of 11,000 jobs and $1.5 billion value add. Singapore is now one of the best and busiest hydro hubs, where companies come to prove their patents and scalability in the live water system. Our R&D efforts also allow PUB to grow local enterprises when it partners the industry to develop innovative solutions. One example is EnvironSense. PUB worked with them to develop an early warning system that detects illegal discharge of heavy metals into the sewage system. EnvironSense has already attracted investments to manufacture and market their products in countries such as the US, China, and India. We've come a long way in our water story, but we cannot rest on our laurels. Climate change is bringing new and wicked problems. It's no coincidence that we are building more desalination and new water plants. We need to produce water almost at will, regardless of whether the rains will come. On the other hand, climate change also brings more frequent, intense storms, which could mean more floods, as noted by Dr. Chia Shilu. As a low-lying island, Singapore is particularly vulnerable to sea level rise that can exacerbate flooding problems. You may have seen Straits Times' interactive graphic that show Singapore underwater. That's already a reality in the Pacific Ocean, where at least 8 islands have disappeared under the sea. To enhance our flood resilience, we completed the Stamford Diversion Canal and Stamford Detention Tank last year. Upgrading works at 2 major waterways, the Bukit Timah First Diversion Canal and Sungai Pandan Kecil, will be completed this year. We'll commence drainage upgrading works at another 16 locations this year. And as engineer Dr. Lee Biwa noted, climate change must be tackled at the regional and global platforms. In the meantime, we must press on to transform our economy towards a low-carbon future and do our part for the planet. This year, the carbon tax takes effect. The government is prepared to spend more than $1 billion to be collected over the next 5 years in tax revenues to help companies become more energy efficient. We will step up solar adoption as highlighted by Ms. Cheng Li Hui. PUB is studying the deployment of floating solar photovoltaic systems at 4 reservoirs: Bedok, Lower Seletar, Upper Pierce, and Tengah. EDB is also exploring the possibility of a commercial floating solar system at Kranji Reservoir. Together, this system potentially have a capacity to power 40,000 4-room HDB households each year, about the half size of Tampines. It gets more exciting. We are also exploring such floating PV systems off Singapore's coast, as well as integrating solar PV into our building facades to maximize solar energy generation. Promoting sustainable transport and managing vehicular emissions are also key. Professor Walter Teixeira asked about our plans to manage transport emissions. We promote cleaner vehicles through emission standards, encourage the early replacement of older and more pollutive vehicles, such as through the Early Turnable Scheme. More than 40,000 commercial diesel vehicles have switched to cleaner vehicles under the scheme. We also work with MOT to encourage adoption of cleaner vehicles and regularly engage the industry, such as commercial electric vehicle fleet owners, like HDT and Blue SG, on their plans. As one of my colleagues, a Minister of Environment, quipped, there is a link between carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. You aim for cleaner vehicles to solve pollution. You will also reduce greenhouse gases that will help with climate change. The preceding examples are what we all call climate mitigation, but that is not enough. The government is also planning ahead to protect Singapore against climate change impacts. Engineer Dr. Lee Biwa asked about initiatives to build climate resilience. My colleagues in M&D spoke at length on this. To guide our policies, though, in fortifying Singapore against climate change, we must build up our knowledge of climate science. Indeed, because there is limited literature on climate change effects in the tropics, we can lead. This is why we set up the Center for Climate Research, Singapore, or CCRS, in 2013. We're stepping up investment to build capability in CCRS and the local scientific community. This year, CCRS will embark on the National Sea Level Program to better understand sea levels around Singapore so that we can develop robust projections and plans for the long term. Mr. Deputy Chairman, we will also press to ensure water security. When Marina East and Jurong Island desalination plants are completed next year, we'll have a total of 5 desalination plants. Work on the Deep Tunnel Sewage System Phase 2, or DTSS2, is on track. We will continue to build up our desalination and new water capacities to ensure that our water supply is secure and resilient in the long term. Water security is an existential issue for Singapore. We'll continue to do what it takes to ensure it. Members will be aware that earlier this week, PUB issued a default notice to Tuas Spring Private Limited, or TPL, the high-flux subsidiary that owns and operates the Tuas Spring Integrated Water and Power Plant. As updated previously in this House, we have been closely monitoring developments and will not allow our water security to be compromised. We are concerned that TPL has been unable to fulfill various contractual obligations, in particular by failing to keep the plant reliably operational as required. In addition, TPL has not been able to produce financial evidence to demonstrate its ability to keep the plant running for the next 6 months. Hence, PUB decided to exercise its rights under its contract with TPL and initiate the necessary proceedings to safeguard the continued operations of the plant. This action is to safeguard our water security. Over the past 5 decades, we have worked hard to diversify our water resources and build up our 4 national taps. We saw how the Lingu reservoir stock level plummeted to 20% in 2016. It has yet to recover fully, even after more than 2 years. While stock levels had gradually increased to 72% by end 2018, after just 2 months this year, it has dropped again to 64%. That is why our weather-resilient new water and desalination taps are integral to our water security. Mr. Deputy Chairman, even as we secure our water supply, we cannot ignore water conservation. Overconsumption is a challenge in many countries. In Qatar, where water is provided for free, daily consumption is around 500 liters per person. In Singapore, we have worked hard to embed water conservation in our national DNA. Our domestic water consumption decreased from 148 liters per capita per day in 2016 to 141 liters in 2018. But we agree, Mr. Amrin Amin, that we must do more to reach our goal of 130 liters by 2030. To this end, we'll help consumers make more informed purchasing decisions, such as through the mandatory water efficiency labelling scheme. Similarly, for the non-domestic sector, PUB is working with the Singapore Environment Council to develop a green labelling scheme for commercial equipment, such as commercial dishwashers. PUB also supports businesses through its Water Efficiency Fund. One beneficiary is Hoya Electronics Singapore, which reduced its new water consumption by 75%. Last weekend, President Halima officiated Singapore World Water Day, marking the start of a year-long conservation campaign. PUB is launching the inaugural hashtag GoBlue4SG, movements to rally the community and celebrate our collective actions to conserve water. One of the highlights, City Turns Blue. We'll see more than 20 buildings light up Singapore's skyline on 22nd March. I'm heartened that over 150 schools will undertake water rationing exercises to drive home the value of water. I encourage all of us to make every drop count. The impact of climate change goes beyond water. Indeed, the destinies of two other agencies under my ministry, Environment and Food, are also tied to the impacts of climate change, like water. Resource scarcity is set to become the new normal, as with it, cascading impacts such as disruptions to supply chains that fuel our economies and increase risk of global conflicts. We must therefore apply a strategic lens to Singapore's resource resilience. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, to meet this new challenge of securing our food and other resources, we can apply the lessons from our water story. Singapore designated 2019 as the year towards zero waste. We want to break away from the linear economy where we take, make, use, and toss without a second thought, because this is not sustainable. Therefore, we must make a paradigm shift towards circular economy approaches. Beyond protecting the planet, circular economy approaches can enable Singapore to overcome resource constraints and strengthen overall resilience. Many may not realize this, but New Water embodies the circular economy. We use resource, in this case water, for as long as possible and ensure that what can be reused is put back into the system. This shirt I received recently at the special ASEAN ministerial meeting on marine debris this week is another good example of circular economy. It says that it's made, this polo shirt is recycled from 12 bottles, PET bottles, that all of us use, but I would encourage most of us to use reusable bottles instead. It's made from these upcycled materials. In essence, what they have done is try to keep using what we have within our systems and not toss it away, in this case, into the sea. This same thinking applies to every other resources. For example, lithium-ion batteries found in almost all our electronics, handphones, laptops, and even electric vehicles. Global demand is soaring, but mineral sources for lithium, cobalt, and coltan are finite and costly to mine. And continuously exploiting these minerals may harm the gorillas that Mr. Louis Ng was talking about. But we can collect this used uncontaminated e-waste in meaningful amounts and apply R&D and new technologies to extract the precious minerals. This will increase our resource resilience and avoid harming the environment. Businesses are alive to the opportunities of the circular economy. Among them is our own homegrown e-waste recycling company, TESS. TESS recovers treasures from trash, extracting gold, silver, and palladium from e-waste. TESS has plans to expand its lithium-ion battery treatment process facility. Recyclers like TESS are important as they ensure that heavy metals from e-waste do not contaminate our environment, but are instead recovered as valuable resource to power our economy. Let me focus on how we'll recreate our water story in the environmental sector. Our vision is to close the waste loop through circular economy approaches and turn trash into treasure. This also helped to extend the lifespan of Semakau landfill, as Ms. Cheng Li Hui highlighted. To do so, we need to invest in R&D in close partnership with industry and research institutions, just like how we have grown our water industry and research ecosystem to tackle our water challenge. This will allow us to overcome technological barriers in our drive towards a zero-waste nation. NEA set aside $45 million under the Closing the Waste Loop R&D initiative to fund projects adopting circular economy approaches. Promising projects include Singapore Polytechnic's development of green chemistry technology to recover precious metals in e-waste, and Nanyang Technological University's method to rapidly convert food waste into high-grade biofertilizers. The result of such R&D means more opportunities for enterprises and consequently more jobs for Singaporeans. Take Singapore Polytechnic, which after developing a recycling process for solar panels that can potentially recover up to 90% of useful materials, signed an MOU or Memorandum of Collaboration with Sembcorp Industries to develop a pilot recycling plants for used PV panels. Another company that says such opportunities is Westcom Solutions. Westcom got its researchers to help improve processes to scale up and transition from being a company that distributes food waste digesters to one that manufactures them. I look forward to the day when our stores carry home food digesters that are compact, economical, and easy to use, something we can put in our own homes, to convert food waste into compost to grow plants and even food at home. This also reduces the need to transport food waste across the island and keep our system free from pests. As R&D powers our enterprises and creates new opportunities for them, it will also create new jobs for Singaporeans. We need engineers to develop standards for waste management and recycling operations, scientists to study microorganisms for efficient food waste processing, and analysts to study the data created and create strategies for scaling up. We'll also partner with other agencies and the industry to turn trash into treasure through circular economy strategies. JTC, in consultation with NEA, is developing the multi-story recycling facility, or MSRF, which is expected to be ready in 2021. The facilities will house multiple recyclers and be located close to other industries. This will present opportunities to reuse waste materials and other industrial byproducts, thereby closing resource loops at the local level. Today, we already have new water. We are working on creating new sand. We are studying how we can turn incineration ash into construction materials instead of landfilling it. NEA is leading the effort and has developed draft standards for the use of treated ash, such as for building roads. NEA has appointed industry players to demonstrate their technologies. We plan to start field trials next year. We'll take careful steps, though, as 2/3 of Singapore is water catchment that must remain free from pollution. Building a circular economy also requires international cooperation as value chains are interconnected. Singapore will play a constructive role in this process. We supported the special ASEAN ministerial meeting on marine debris 2 days ago, where ASEAN countries agreed to advance concrete actions on the circular economy. The same conference where Thailand gave delegates this T-shirt to demonstrate the potential of the circular economy. We'll continue cooperating with partners in the region to work towards zero waste. Mr. Deputy Chairman, let me now turn to food, another essential resource. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change estimates widespread decline in crop yields of up to 25% by 2050 due to climate change. Singapore is also exposed to the volatilities of the global food market because we import over 90% of our food. Just last year, Malaysia announced that it was considering limiting exports of eggs. Dr. Chia Shi Lu asked how the SFA's formation will benefit Singaporeans and companies. SFA's mission is to ensure and secure a supply of safe food for Singapore. As the lead agency to strengthen food safety and security, SFA will have regulatory oversight across the entire food chain from farm to fork. It will also partner businesses to transform our agri-food industry and create, again, good jobs for Singaporeans. Mr. Desmond Chu asked about SFA's plan to strengthen our food security. SFA will pursue 3 broad strategies called the 3 food baskets: diversify import sources, grow local, and grow overseas, which I talked about during the second reading of the SFA bill. Today, I would like to focus on our grow local strategy. Local production will reduce our reliance on imports and buffer the impact of overseas supply disruptions. That is to locally produce 30% of Singapore's nutritional needs by 2030. 30 by 30.
This is an ambitious multifold increase to our current production. Remember, we import over 90% of our food. To get to the 30 by 30 vision, we require our agri-food industry to adopt new solutions to raise productivity, apply R&D, strengthen climate resilience, and overcome our resource constraints. We need new paradigms in the agri-food industry. Supporting our existing farms to innovate and increase productivity is a key pillar of the Grow Local strategy. Many of these farms are household names which produce eggs, vegetables, and fish. For example, Vegetable Farm, Kok Fa, and Hoka Clean have been feeding Singapore for over 20 years. The Agriculture Productivity Fund, APF, has supported them to integrate climate control and automation into the operations, thereby raising their capacity and productivity. We similarly work with our existing coastal fish farms. Singapore Aquaculture Technologies was one of the first coastal fish farms to adopt closed containment aquaculture systems. This protects fish production from seaborne threats, such as algae blooms or oil spills. More than 90 farms have benefited from the APF, and I encourage all our farms to tap on it. We'll also expand production in state-of-the-art indoor farms. Farms such as Sustainer and Panasonic optimize plant growth and increase yield exponentially through high-tech solutions like LED lighting and climate control. By controlling growing variables, these farms are climate resilient and can maintain high quality. We expect to see more such farms as successful tenderers in the recent agricultural land tender exercises begin production and scale up. Farmers of the future will operate computerized control systems in a pleasant environment. SFA will also support the growing interest in urban farming, such as on rooftops. This brings the community together and attunes Singapore to food security by involving them directly in food production. Such farms can also be used to test-bed innovative technologies for growing food. We are working with SLA, MOH, and EGDA to pilot this concept, repurposing the former Henderson Secondary School into an integrated space comprising an urban farm, a childcare center, a nursing home, and a dialysis center. Our plans to grow local also extend to productive and sustainable fish farming. Our vision is to develop Singapore and tropical aquaculture hub, much like how we have the hydro hub. One area we're studying is deep-sea fish farming, which can contribute significantly to local production. A local first mover is Barramundi Asia, which uses large sea cages to culture Asian sea bass in the deep waters off Pulau Semakau, our landfill. I recently visited them and was impressed by the fish vaccination process. Using technology, Barramundi Asia can vaccinate 9,000 fish in 1 hour, compared to just 600 manually. SFA will work with agencies and industry to open up more sites for deep-sea farming with deep technology. Thus, R&D will be the key driver, again, to help us achieve our 30 by 30 vision, grow our enterprises, and consequently create good jobs. We'll grow an ecosystem of R&D players to support agri and aquaculture industry developments. SFA's Marine Aquaculture Center will contribute to this effort by sharing its expertise and providing facilities for R&D. The RAIC has also set aside $144 million for us to write the Singapore food story. Mr. Desmond Chu asked how we will prepare Singaporeans for the growing opportunities in the agri-food sector. The agri-food industry will require a workforce with good understanding of urban food production, processes, and business models, and multidisciplinary expertise in science, engineering, info communications, and more. To this end, we have worked with Republic Poly and Temasek Poly to launch Skills Future Earn and Learn programs, or ELP, for fresh ITE graduates, leading to diplomas in urban agricultural technology and aquaculture. ELP will emplace IT graduates in industry and equip them with the knowledge and skills to become agriculture and aquaculture technicians. We'll also partner universities to groom agri and aqua technologists and culturists, urban farming specialists, and researchers to meet future needs. Like every sector in Singapore, the agri-food sector must embrace sustainability. Some of farms are already employing circular economy principles. Indoor farm sustenance using carbon dioxide, a byproduct from the petrochem industry, to enhance vegetable yields. NNN, a layer egg farm, carries out biodigestion using poultry waste to produce energy. This is then used to dry byproducts from the food manufacturing industry to produce chicken feed. These examples show that what we see as waste in one sector can be feedstock for another. We'll do more to find synergies across different systems, such as food, water, energy, and waste, and then scale them up for commercial viability. We'll apply the circular economy approach across systems to achieve zero waste and the lowest use of resources. This requires an ambitious R&D program, integrate upfront planning and design and close collaboration with the industry. This is the future economy, and the government will invest significant resources to enable Singaporeans to thrive in it. In total, the government will spend almost $400 million under RIE 2020 towards research and innovation in water, circular economy, and climate change and food. These significant investments will help us to explore greater possibilities across the food, water, energy, waste nexus, achieve new results, and scale up. One early success is NEA and PUB's successful trial at Ulu Pandan Water Reclamation Plant. It has proven that co-digesting food waste and used water sludge can triple biogas yield compared to treating the used water sludge alone. Triple. The biogas is used to generate energy for the facility. This co-digestion technology illustrates the potential in exploiting synergies in the food, water, energy, waste nexus. We are preparing to scale this technology up and adopt it for the new Tuas nexus. It will be operational in 2025. Mr. Deputy Chairman, the plans we have for the water, food, and environmental sectors will open up a variety of exciting opportunities for enterprises and jobs in our industries. We hope to produce more of the likes of EnvironSense, TESS, Sasanya, and Barramundi Asia. We also need many people with diverse interests and skills to help us tackle our challenges. Let me introduce to some of our young Singaporeans who have already stepped up in our water, food, and environmental sectors. Mr. Ahmad Zaki bin Saleh and Ms. Rajkumar Amrita are at the forefront of efforts to enhance food resilience and ensure water security. Ahmad Zaki, a senior engineer at PUB, oversaw the planning and construction of the Stamford Diversion Tank, while Amrita contributes to the smooth operations at Woodley Waterworks. Ms. Mary Tan and Mr. Lee Yuan Hao are part of a growing agri-food sector to strengthen food security. Mary oversees fish health at Barramundi's Asia's Nursery, while Yan Hao founded Ding He Agriculture, a vertical indoor agri-farm. Ms. Jade Loh and Ms. Heng Kim Soon are contributing to zero waste costs. Jade and the team at Plus Pulp Union Private Limited explore recycling solutions for complex waste materials, while Kim Soon conducts R&D on uses for incineration ash. Together with their colleagues in the water, food, and environmental sectors, these young people will see our plans through in the decades to come. Mr. Chairman, climate change, Mr. Deputy Chairman, climate change will bring new existential threats, but also exciting opportunities. We must do as our forefathers did. Stay alert and nimble, and continue to plan and prepare for the long term. It took us more than 2 decades to create new water. Likewise, the vision of a reservoir in the heart of the city was only realized many years after our founding Prime Minister mooted the idea. We have ambitious plans for water, waste, and food sectors. But the road ahead is long and winding. We'll persevere, for we are not done building a sustainable Singapore.